Hey, I'm Katelyn Williams, and we're going to be discussing the case of The Prisoner's Dilemma. The Prisoner's Dilemma is by James Rachels, and he gives us a situation and wants us to imagine that we are living in a totalitarian society. In this society, we have been arrested and charged with treason, along with another man that we don't know at all, Smith. We are being pressured by the police to confess to a crime that we obviously didn't do. However, the police are not concerned with the truth on whether we did it or whether we didn't. They are only wanting to convict someone, Smith or us. So we have to decide whether we confess or whether we don't. So with us understanding that we are actually in trouble, the police have offered us a deal, and we have been given 4 different choices. However, not knowing what Smith is going to do, and with us not being allowed to talk to him, and us never have spoke to him before, we don't know what he will decide. So we are left with 4 choices. 4 options that Smith is also given to. Our first option is to confess. And if Smith doesn't confess, then you'll be released. You'll be free, but Smith, who did not cooperate and did not confess, will then be locked up for 10 years. Option 2, Smith confesses and you don't. The roles will be reversed. Smith will be released and you will be locked away for 10 years. Option 3, Smith and you both confess. You'll be both sentenced to 5 years because both of you are admitting to the crime. Option 4, neither Smith or you confess, and you'll neither one be convicted. The officers then don't have any reason to be able to convict you, and they can only be able to hold you for up to a year, and then you both have to be let go. However, when thinking about your options, you have to remember that Smith was offered the same deal. And not knowing what he will choose, at this point we have to forget about everything. We have to realize that there's no way out, there's no way we can fight for our rights, and there's no way to prove our innocence. On the other hand, even though we want to maybe consider helping Smith, who is also in our same position and didn't commit the crime, we have to be able to focus on what's best for us and not for Smith. So, how do we get out the quickest? Although we are given a hard decision, with us not knowing what Smith is going to do, we have to realize that the only option for us is to confess. With us confessing, we will only be able to receive at least 5 years. And this is a great example of the utilitarianism, because utilitarians usually only act in ways that are going to benefit the most amount of people. And without us knowing what Smith will do, we could potentially be benefiting him, but we are definitely benefiting ourselves. However, there's a catch. The catch is that if we both don't cooperate, which is what we would naturally want to do and what we think would be in our best interest as we didn't commit the crime, then we would end up with more time and would typically be given the 10 years. With confessing being our best option, we are then faced with the issue of self-interest. And our self-interest is always what's going to get us out of trouble the quickest. But just as we do in our everyday lives, the option that benefits us the most is not always the best option. On the other side of this, it would be so much easier if we could talk to Smith. However, even if we did talk to Smith, with us not knowing him at all and never have met him before, how do we know that an agreement with him would even stand up? How do we know that whenever he went in to talk with the officers after we make an agreement with him, that he will even stick to it? Because he might want to benefit himself more than he would want to work with us. After discussing the case, it is obvious that there are a couple of ethical issues in it, and the first one being honesty. Honesty is about more than us just being honest with ourselves. It's also about us being honest with others. And in this case, we can't be honest with ourselves, for one, because we have to lie and commit to the crime that we didn't do. But for two, we also have to lie to the officers. The officers are wanting us to confess, so it works for them. But we're still not being honest. The second ethical issue is integrity. This goes along with honesty, but it combines us actually being moral. And it's impossible for us to tell the truth in this case, but doing the right thing would be an act of integrity. Acting with integrity in this case is being courageous enough to act even when the situation seems impossible. The third ethical issue is personal responsibility. Personal responsibility is the thought that humans choose that cause their actions. With this situation, we didn't choose to be in the predicament that we are in. However, we are being forced to make a decision based on the knowledge that we have at hand. Understanding that there is no perfect outcome is the first step, but the second step is understanding how to make the decision that is best for us with the information that we know. Along with ethical issues in this case, there's also a moral issue. The moral issue being harm. But not just harm to ourselves, but harm to others. Having a moral issue with harm is what makes this decision so hard. First, we don't want to harm ourselves by forcing ourselves to go to jail, but we also don't want to do the same to Smith because he didn't do anything wrong. Even though this case goes against my personal morals and ethics, especially to lie to anyone, the officers or myself, that's essentially the best option that we have that would benefit me the most. However, you consider this case, you consider the options at hand, and even without not knowing what the other person is going to do, you decide what option is going to best benefit you in the worst situation. In the end, what option will you choose?